Hey, an opinion piece by the Los Angeles Times by Jackie Combs talks about, are you ready? A new 9/11 investigation. That's right. A huge publication such as the Los Angeles Times actually calling for the first time a new investigation into the September 11 attacks. Um, this was a very good opinion piece by Jackie Combs. We're going to read it together. Recent news easily missed in mid headlines about presidential campaign drama, natural disasters, and Olympic gold, and much more have been a somber reminder for those who caught it. As the 23rd anniversary of 9/11 approaches, Americans still don't have a full accounting of the role of the supposed U.S. ally Saudi Arabia. The terrorist attacks that killed nearly 2,000 people. We should. It's late, but never too late to learn the truth. No matter the Saudis' oil wealth, geopolitical weight, or billions given to a former and perhaps future president's son in law. The voids in our knowledge owe both to the Saudi government's opacity and denials, many of them debunked, as well as to our government's lid on information gleaned through federal investigations, PENPOM, and Operation Encore. A congressional inquiry, both the 9/11 Commission and the Joint House Inquiry. Blue Ribbon Commission. President Biden in 2021 finally ordered many documents declassified under Executive Order 14040, which was the Operation Encore files. And when that came out, boy, was that a huge bombshell. Report on it right away. Hardly anyone did. Thanks, Florida Bulldog. The only publication. And then later on, CBS covered it. NBC covered it tentatively. But it was Florida Bulldog, Dan Christensen, Robert Swan, do excellent work. They are the preeminent organization regarding 9/11 attacks here in the United States. President Biden in 2021 finally ordered many documents declassified, fulfilling a promise to 9/11 victim families, but the releases were heavily redacted. Thank the unrelenting families for much of what we know. Their federal lawsuit targeting the Saudi kingdom has ground on since 2002, even to the Supreme Court, right now in the Southern District of New York. Judge George Daniels is listening or trying to evaluate whether information gleaned from the FBI's investigation of the Saudi kingdom can be used as evidence. Coming to rival Dickens, Jarness versus Jarness in an interminable proceedings, as if the survivors haven't suffered enough. What we've uncovered with no help from our FBI and no help from our own government is that the terrorists had a significant amount of help, and that help came in the form of the Saudi government. Brad Eagleson, president of the Families Group 9/11 Justice, told reporters after a current hearing 2 weeks ago. The lawsuit turns on whether assistance from Saudi individuals and groups, the two hijackers who had lived in San Diego, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, part of the al-Qaeda plot. The 19 hijackers, of the 19 attackers, 15 were Saudis, including the two in California who had commandeered the jet that crashed into the Pentagon Flight 77. Osama bin Laden belonged to one of Saudi Arabia's wealthiest clans. In the case's latest development, the plaintiffs won a ruling in June that forced into public view material further implicating the Saudis. It's material that the FBI inexplicably didn't give to the bipartisan 9/11 Commission created after the attacks. And it wasn't that they couldn't give it to them. The White House, led by Philip Zelikow, who was the director, executive director of the 9/11 Commission, acted as the eyes and ears, and of course, the brainchild of the 9/11 Commission. And so the White House was protecting their ally from any type of public harm coming with the evidence that the FBI had at the time in 2002. And during the PENPOM investigation, the biggest FBI investigation in its history, basically uncovered a lot. And a lot of it was redacted, not on orders from the Department of Justice alone, but through the pressure of Attorney General John Ashcroft and, of course, the Bush White House. In a 1999 video first aired by CBS 60 Minutes in late June, Saudi citizen Omar al-Bioumi, an informant to Saudi intelligence, the FBI confirmed, despite Saudi denial, surveils the U.S. Capitol, narrating in Arabic as he shows entrances, security posts, and parking areas, presumably for his al-Qaeda handlers. Also in the video, which I'm surprised this paper hasn't mentioned, or hardly anyone has, is the first time the public has seen two emissaries from Saudi Arabia who are to be the eyes and ears for the man overrunning the Saudi operation Muwais al-Jarrah, and those two individuals are Eldel al-Sadan and Mutiab al-Saderi, who basically were handling who? Omar al-Biyumi, Fahad al-Tamari, Osama Basnan, Anwar al-Awlaki, and others who may have not even known that they were part of this operation. The capital is believed to have been the target of the United Flight 93 hijackers who were forced by their courageous captives to crash the Pennsylvania field. The video is another large brick in a massive wall of evidence that at this point indicates the Saudi government were complicit in 9/11 attacks. Richard Lambert, who led the FBI's 9/11 investigation in San Diego, told CBS. Over the weekend, the New York Times reported on another piece of newly unsealed evidence, al-Bayomi's notebook, that included a sketch of an airplane and an equation calculating the rate of descent to hit a target on the ground. British authorities seized a trove of evidence from al-Bayomi in England 10 days after the attacks turned over to the FBI. Al-Bayomi, who was in San Diego assisting Khalid al-Mihdhar to Wapa Hazmi, left in July of 2001 to his residence in the United Kingdom, and then from there to Saudi Arabia. But after the 9/11 attacks, Scotland Yard had detained al-Bayomi, and when they looked to his residence, they found a bunch of notebooks. And that was talking about this. And I read about this in the Operation Encore files, mentioning this. I did a whole video on that. Please look at that playlist. Very important, because I talked in depth about the Operation Encore files at the time when it was released. And I talked about the FBI agent who was looking at that file. Himself was a pilot. And he saw that there were diagrams, of course, calculations, equations that resonated with aeronautical dynamics. And because al-Bayomi was handling al-Mihdhar al-Hazmi, they deduced that this plane that they were mentioning in the notebook was Flight 77. Al-Bayomi subsequently fled back to Saudi Arabia and remains there, lived in California before the attacks, met the two hijackers in waiting when they arrived in Los Angeles and got them settled in San Diego. Now, through the Canestraro document and the Penn bomb investigation, as well as Operation Encore files, it does mention that al-Bayomi had met Khalid al-Mihdhar and Wapa Hazmi at the Mediterranean Gourmet Cafe, Delhi, with an associate named Kaysan Bindan. Kaysan Bindan was interviewed by the FBI and states that they did not know that they were there first before al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi came in the restaurant. Al-Bayomi said that al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi were already in the restaurant. From there, al-Bayomi tells them to go to San Diego, where they get a bank account. They get the residence paid for first 2 months rent by al-Bayomi. Richard J. Morrell, former deputy director of the CIA, told the New York Times that Congress or the Justice Department should investigate what happened to this stuff after it was turned over by the FBI. And of course, CIA is more than willing to throw the FBI under the bus regarding this. But what the CIA has to realize is that the orders were coming from the White House. Now, the CIA's got some nerve here, because the CIA knew about the two hijackers living inside the United States and didn't tell the FBI about it. Disclosures coincided with the release last week of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in The Art of Power, her book. In a chapter about 9/11, she devotes 7 pages to the government's failure to fully follow the dots to Saudi Arabia and the Bush administration's resistance to doing so. Pelosi writes that a joint House-Senate inquiry focused on communications breakdowns among intelligence and law enforcement agencies that caused them to miss opportunities to prevent the tragedy. But, she adds, there was a second major theme that we were not initially allowed to present to the public: the Saudi Arabian connection, specifically a clear trail of funding and assistance to these 9/11 terrorists that were provided by Saudi citizens, and particularly by Saudi diplomats and royal family members. When it came to U.S. intelligence, Pelosi knows. For 30 years, she was part of the tiny clique in Congress with access to the nation's secrets. What still troubles her is this: we found strong evidence on multiple concerning links to Saudi Arabia while the Bush officials were trying very hard to link 9/11 to Iraq and Saddam Hussein. And who was pushing that? The dual Israeli citizen, Richard Pearl, Dov Zakheim, Paul Wolfowitz, the neocons, the Office of Special Plans, headed by who? Douglas Feith, Richard Pearl, and Paul Wolfowitz. In fact, not everybody can go into this office that was located in the White House. It was dedicated strictly to the invasion of Iraq. Now, why? Because Israel considered Iraq a huge arm and extension of the Shia minority. And also, Saddam Hussein was not a friend to the Gulf, as he despised bin Laden and Salafi Mojave militants. And this goes to show you who we bombed after 9/11: Iraq, Syria, Libya. Why? It had nothing to do with 9/11. Afghanistan, yeah, the training camps were there, but none of those countries. Notice how we didn't attack Bahrain, Yemen, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. That gave us the groups like Al Qaeda, Islamic State, Levant, Jemaah Islamiyah, Abu Sayyaf, and others. Congress authorized Bush to go to war based on the lie that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction from a torture of Sheikh Ibn al-Libi, who the CIA took that information and gave it to Colin Powell, Secretary of State under Bush, went to the United Nations Security Council. We went to war, killed 1.5 million Iraqis based on a lie. CIA officials went back to Iraqi. Why'd you lie to us? Iraqi told them the fucking obvious. I told you wherever you wanted to hear to stop the torture. Why are we torturing Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Ramzi bin al-Shib, Mustafa al-Hawsawi, Ali Abdulaziz Ali, also known as Amr al-Baluchi, and Wali bin Achash, also known as Kalan? Of course, Ramzi bin al-Shib, as you know, is now deemed mentally incapable of defending himself. So he's out of the 9/11 Commission pre-hearings and trial, if we ever get one. Thanks to the CIA implementing their enhanced interrogation techniques, a fancy word for torture. The 9/11 Commission's executive director noted to the New York Times in its recent report on the new evidence that the Commission's conclusion 20 years ago were dependent on the evidence available at the time. Well, then Zelikow should have no hesitation in trying to push for a new investigation. Now we have even more information in our hands, especially with the biggest revelation of all, the Canestraro document. I would love to get those people on the stand to come out and talk about the classified information, but they can't because it's classified information. That's why they were anonymous. How about Operation Encore? The evidence that was uncovered in the second investigation into Saudi complicity by the FBI. So we have more information. Exactly. Which is why Congress, or some outside group of its creation, should investigate the new clues of Saudi complicity and report its updated findings to the nation. Honor the victims. Honor the victims. Not foreign policy sacred cows. What a way to end the article. Bang on job. Bang on job. And a huge thank you to Jackie Combs for calling for a new investigation into 9/11. Follow her on Twitter. Tell her thank you very much. Finally, a major U.S. publication calling for a new 9/11 investigation. And why not the rest of you? Turning my followers, please make a video, write an article, do something. If you think your voice is not going to be heard, no, it's going to be. Don't doubt yourself. Help out when you can, because this is exactly what we need at a time like this, right before the election. Hey, maybe Kamala Harris, maybe Donald Trump will mention a new 9/11 investigation, but we got to have enough people to bring attention to it. All right, guys. The article is going to be in the description so you can read it for yourselves. Thank you very much for tuning in. See you in the next video. Take care, everybody.